Tomato, tomato, potato, potato, inventory, inventory. Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the difference between the two main types of inventory that you should be concerned about when it comes to your candle, soap, or other handcrafted business. All right, yeah, I know. So you're probably thinking, inventory is inventory. What's there to get? And I hear you, but stick with me through the rest of this video because there is a lot of important information and I promise you, you will find it helpful. So while potato, potato, tomato, tomato, those words sound a little different, but we all know that they're the same thing. Well, inventory and inventory is really more like I and I, or so and so. So in this case, they sound the same, but they're really referring to different things. And that is the focus of today's video. We're going to be talking about the difference between the two, why both are important, and the proper way to track each. Before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to Craftybase for sponsoring this video. Craftybase is a small business solution to tracking inventory, basic expenses, materials, pricing, all sorts of different things. And we're going to talk about Craftybase later in the video because it does play an integral part into explaining some of the things we're going to be talking about. But I did just want to take a quick minute to thank them for sponsoring this video. For many of you that have been watching this channel for a while, you know that Craftybase has sponsored a handful of videos, but I have been using Craftybase for years, well before they sponsored any videos. So if you are interested in learning more about Craftybase, I do have a playlist that I will link in the description. If you are interested in checking out more, I would encourage you to do so. But again, more on that later. Hi everyone, my name is Wade Thomas. I'm the owner of Black Tie Barn Candle Company. And if you are interested in learning any more about candle making or running a candle business, I would encourage you to subscribe below to the channel. That way you don't miss out on any other videos and content that I publish, not just in the future, but the previous videos as well. Also, if you wouldn't mind, give this video a quick thumbs up by hitting the like button below. That helps out the channel so I can continue to make more content, but it also really tells YouTube that you like these type of videos. Appreciate you all for being here as always. Let's go ahead and get to the meat of this video. So the first type of inventory is probably the inventory that most of you, especially those of you that are getting started, are probably thinking about when I say the word inventory. And that is your finished products, your products that are available to sell, sitting on a shelf, ready to go. It's your finished good. It's your candle or your bar of soap or your wax melts, for example. We don't really need to spend a lot of time on explaining what that type of inventory is, or really even the importance of it, because I think most of us understand that tracking that type of inventory is important to track your stock so you know what is available to sell or what you need to make more of in order to replenish your stock. It helps you fulfill orders. It tells you what is selling versus what's not selling when you run reports against that inventory. So there are a lot of benefits and really requirements to needing to track that type of inventory. But there is a lot more to inventory than just that. However, for those of you running an e-commerce site like Shopify or using a software like QuickBooks to manage your account and your books, that type of inventory that Shopify is tracking as well as QuickBooks Online offers to track for you, depending on the plan you choose, it is tracking your finished goods inventory, which is great for the aforementioned reasons, but it is not going to help you near as much as you think because it is not the only inventory you should be tracking. In fact, many would argue there is a much more important one, especially if you ask your bookkeeper, your accountant, certainly the IRS, and even me. Because while this is inventory, so is this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. So what type of inventory are we talking about? Simply put, it's called raw materials, raw material inventory. This is the inventory of everything that actually makes up your finished product. You see, you can't have finished goods inventory if you don't have your raw materials inventory. So whether we're talking about your waxes, your jars, your wicks stickers, your fragrance oil, and so on, those are all considered raw materials inventory, and inventory is really broken down into three major categories, and that is your finished goods inventory, your raw materials inventory, which is what we're speaking about now, and then there's actually one in the middle called works in progress. But to keep things simple, we're going to ignore that for now. We're going to leave that out of this equation because the focus of this is just to illustrate the importance of tracking your materials and supplies that go into your product versus just the finished product. So what are some of the reasons why tracking your raw material inventory is so important? Well, for starters, as I mentioned before, you can't have finished goods inventory without raw materials inventory. They make up your finished product. So certainly no one's going to argue that they're not important to have. The question is more of why they're important to track. Well, from an operational standpoint, as a candle maker or a soap maker, your raw materials will help you determine the cost to make your finished product. And if you know the cost to make your finished product, you've got some price guidance on how much you should be charging for your product when you sell it. So certainly there is an operational improvement, a necessity to know the cost of your materials that go into your finished product, but it's more than that. Arguably the most important part is knowing your cost of goods sold when it comes to tax time. At the end of the year, it is a requirement by the IRS that small businesses that are manufacturing products have a cost of goods sold reported. Simply showing income and expenses is actually not enough when you are a company that makes a product and sells it. You are a manufacturing company at this point, even if it's just a small one, and there's certain stipulations and requirements that you must meet. So at the end of the year when you're filing your taxes, or your bookkeeper or accountant's doing your taxes for you, they will be submitting a Schedule C if you are an LLC or a sole proprietor, for example, or an 1125A, I believe it is, if you are an S Corp. Either way, both of those are essentially taking your inventory and determining with some changes over the year of that inventory what your cost of goods sold are. And that is what is reported on those forms and then submitted with your profit and loss, your income and expenses to the IRS. That is the proper way to actually be tracking your inventory and reporting your income and expenses. So how is the cost of goods sold determined for your business on these forms? Well, it's really a fairly simple equation, and these forms step you through them. The first is your beginning inventory plus any purchases of materials and costs that go into making your product minus your end of year inventory leaves you with your cost of goods sold. And that is the part that gets claimed as an expense, as an additional expense on your tax returns. So now that we know how that information is reported when it comes to tax time, whether you're doing that yourself or a bookkeeper, either way, it's something that gets reported or should be being reported. So now the light bulb might be going off of why just reporting your finished goods inventory isn't enough. Because inventory and cost of goods are concerned with all types of inventory, your entire inventory value, not just the finished product. Now, even more importantly, when we're talking about inventory and cost of goods sold, we're not talking about quantity of inventory. That's the first type of inventory. Your product, your finished goods inventory that Shopify's tracking for you, or QuickBooks is tracking for you, those are concerned with how much quantity of a finished good you have left. For example, I might have 10 of these candles available for sale, or I might have 20 bars of soap. That is the quantity of your inventory. That doesn't matter when it comes to taxes and bookkeeping. What matters is the value of your inventory, because expenses are a dollar amount. So I need to know what 10 of these cost and what 20 bars of soap cost. So all of this is concerned with the value of your inventory, not the quantity. Because when you're doing your income statement, your profit and your loss, and you're looking at your expenses for the end of the year, your expenses are not going to say 47 candles sold. That's not something you would put in your bookkeeping, in your accounting records. What it would say is $1,200 of cost of goods sold. And so that is why you have to have a value, a monetary value tied to your inventory. This is where Craftybase comes in. Now, before I go any further, I should mention that you can do this manually. You can do this with the help of an accountant or a bookkeeper. There are other ways you can do this. In fact, there are other systems besides Craftybase that you can use to do this. All large manufacturing companies use an inventory management system, and those systems are very, very intricate and very complex. Many of them are custom tailored to the needs of that particular manufacturer. We're talking about companies that have tons of products with $1 gazillion to spend, and that's a good thing because those systems cost $1 gazillion. Fortunately, Craftybase has a few different tiers that you can use. Now, again, I will have a video and a playlist in the description below that you can learn more about Craftybase. We're not going to get into all the details in it or a walkthrough, but I do have a playlist that overviews what it can do and some other specific videos of how to do certain things in Craftybase, with several more to come. And if you are interested in trying a free trial or you want to go ahead and just jump right in, I do have a link below. So how does Craftybase help with all of this? Well, for starters, it will track your finished goods inventory, of course, but it also tracks your raw materials inventory. And the way it does it is extremely powerful. It's tracking all your materials from the day that you purchase them. So it's updating your stock levels so you know what you have and how much you need for different products, but it assigns the value so it knows how much that inventory is worth. As you make a product, it deducts from that raw material inventory to make that finished product. It updates that finished product inventory. It knows the value this entire way through, so when you sell that product, it knows exactly how much of cost of goods sold of your inventory just went out the door. How much now can be written off come tax time. It is tracking your changes in inventory dynamically all the time for you. Not just the quantity, but the monetary amount as well. I did not touch on this before, but it's important to go ahead and mention it now. The reason why I'm talking so much about inventory value and your cost of goods sold is because there is a legal way to actually write off expenses used in your manufacturing business. So as a candle maker, when I buy my wicks and my waxes, my oils and my jars, if I just make a purchase from, say, Candle Science or Amazon, I don't just write those off as an expense when I make the purchase. So as a business owner, we're always told, make sure you track all your expenses. All your expenses are deductible, which is true, but there are certain rules for how you can write off materials, inventory as an expense. I can't just write off the entire expense. If I spend $200 at Amazon on waxes, jars, and some wicks, I can't just write all of that off as an expense that year or at the time of purchase. I get to deduct those as expenses as they get made into a candle and then when the candle sells. That's why it's called your cost of goods sold. Trying to track it yourself is almost a nightmare. You can get away with it for a little bit, starting out when things are really, really small. But trust me when I tell you, from experience, it is a uphill battle from there. It becomes a logistical nightmare that it's just almost impossible to keep up with. Rely on a system that can do it for you and do it accurately, because it will save you come tax time or any time you're needing to do inventory counts. But there are so many other benefits to using Craftybase. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on all of them. As I mentioned before, I've got plenty of resources on the channel about Craftybase. I would encourage you to check them out if you are interested in more information. But just to highlight a few of these other bonuses, if this is the first time you're hearing about Craftybase, it will help with pricing guidance. As I talked about, it knows the cost of your materials. It also knows your cost to make a specific product or a number of products, so it can help you with pricing those products. You can also create and track your recipes in Craftybase. I have another video specifically on how I create and manage my recipes, and that is done through Craftybase. Also, importing and or creating and tracking my orders. You can import orders from different platforms, or you can manually create your orders. I've actually done both, and I kind of go back and forth between what I think is the best method, but I'm going to have another video on that topic down the road. But the point is you can manage your orders in Craftybase, managing your expenses and material purchases, stock alerts, which is a great one. You can set alerts and thresholds. So if you get low on a particular supply, like if you get low on a certain type of wicks or a certain type of jars, it can notify you so you know when to reorder. Plus, you can consolidate several things at the same time. So when you do place an order, you're not doing a lot of random orders here and there once a week. You can consolidate all these things into one big order. That will really help you out. But you can also do low stock alerts on finished goods as well. So if you're getting low on this candle, for example, and if you get below, say, 4 of these, you want to know so you can go ahead and make more, it will alert you on those as well. And just a ton of reports, different types of reports that can help you with different parts of your running your business. I'm telling you guys, it's a lifesaver. So, in the battle of inventory versus inventory, who wins? The funny thing is, they're actually on the same team. But far too often, one of them is neglected. And I'm telling you, if that one type of inventory is neglected too much and not treated fairly, it will crush the other. And it could crush your business. Look, I get it. I understand. Managing inventory is not the sexiest of topics, unless you're like a total nerd like me, but it is one of the most critical aspects of running a successful business, especially a manufacturing one. And I'm speaking to you as a friend here, because I consider us all part of the same community. We all work together to try to have the most successful businesses we can. So when I say this to you, I truly mean this as a partner and as a friend. We are running a manufacturing business, and we have to operate it as such. And I do want to thank Craftybase one more time for sponsoring this video. But y'all, like I mentioned before, I've been using Craftybase for years. And I know that talking about inventory and workflow management and bookkeeping and all of that can be a complicated and sometimes tough subject to tackle. So I am considering, as many of you know, behind the scenes, I'm working on some webinars and some courses and some Zoom classes and things like that to try to help out the rest of you, anyone that might be interested. Still working on the details and on the timeline. So if y'all would mind, in the comments section, if you would please let me know if A, you would be interested in anything like that, and B, how have you been currently tracking your inventory? Have you been tracking and reporting your raw material inventory and your cost of goods the way we described in this video? Or have you been writing everything off, all your purchases of raw materials as an expense at the time of purchase? Thank you all for watching. Be sure to check out these other helpful videos or playlists that are hopefully being shown to you right now. Be sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. You all rock, and I will see you next time. Thanks.